Good day, everyone. My name is Jason Matthews from Evan Business Solutions. Thank you for joining me in this lengthy training session. In this video, I'll be showing you the capabilities from FNB Instant Accounting to support your VAT201 returns. There are many videos on VAT201 returns on YouTube, which you can watch. However, I'll go through the process on a high level, show you where information or training material is available, and how to use FNB's Instant Accounting to gather your information required to submit a VAT 201 return. So the process here is obviously to start registering for VAT. Then once you're registered, you need to create a monthly VAT input and VAT output on Excel. Then using FNB Instant Accounting, categorize your transactions which have VAT, extract VAT 201 and VAT drill down reports on a monthly or every second month so that you can gather the information to place onto your VAT returns. But before you put it onto your SARS VAT return, update that information and analyze it on your VAT input and output Excel sheet. And then once you've submitted your VAT input and VAT output on SARS on the VAT 201 return, and if everything seems fine, you go ahead and you make your payment, and then you can also review your VAT 201 statement of account. So that's the process, and at the end I'll show or share with you some tips that you can use when you are managing this process. So let's start with registering for VAT, and that information is predominantly on the SARS website. So when you log on to the SARS website, you can see a lot of information related to registering for VAT, who must register for VAT, and that is companies that generate through sales of goods or services over 1 million Rand over a consecutive 12-month period. They need to register for VAT. And then you have the smaller companies that desire to be VAT registered, and it's seen as voluntary registration. However, you do need a minimum of at least 4,200 Rand a month, or over a year 50,000 Rand in sales and services or goods. And but you can see over here there's different types of scenarios that you can present to SARS in a face-to-face booking to explain to them why you would like to be registered for VAT even though you have not exceeded the 1 million Rand turnover. And then on the SARS website, it shows you how to register for VAT, how do you kickstart the process on the SARS portal, and then going in to have an appointment and making sure that the necessary information is updated. And then there's a whole list of documents here that you can read through to help you understand how to use the process. There is the guide to completing the VAT 201 return. So this is something new that you'll have to do on a bi-monthly basis, or every second month. And it's quite extensive, and it's a good training material that shows you how to access or register on e-filing system for VAT 201. And that's after you have successfully had your face-to-face meeting at the SARS offices, and they have issued you the privileges of being a VAT supplier, or a VAT vendor. So this training material shows you where to look for VAT 201 under the returns issued. You'll have something extra here. I think we're all familiar with pay as you earn, EMP 201, and then the normal annual returns provisional tax for your company, and then you'll see this extra one called value added tax. Once you are registered for VAT, there is some additional steps that you need to prepare in advance of completing your VAT 201 submissions. So what I did when I started is I created an Excel sheet where I would have on the month, a column for month, what is my output VAT, that's the income that I get, and then my input VAT, what is the expenses, so that I can each month see what the goods or services that I sold versus the expenses of purchasing goods or expenses to produce those services. And that's where you can see the difference out and in, and if there's a carryover, and then what is it that I acknowledge to SARS and what I actually pay to SARS. So when I got my VAT, you can see I wasn't registered for VAT, and then from August I was registered. Now I needed to keep track of my VAT related transactions. However, I did not receive income. So ideally, you would actually be saying to SARS that they owe you money. But if you were to submit a VAT 201 where you are now asking SARS to pay VAT to you because you did not gain any income, you're going to have to wait 60 days for a payment, and it's such a small payment that you're waiting for. So an advice that I got from an accountant was to keep a record of those expenses, the VAT portion, month on month, and carry it over until you finally get that income that you can then trade it off against. So from August to February, that's my financial year, I didn't receive any income, but there were expenses in the business which I kept record of. And as I closed off in February, there was an amount of 3,600 Rand worth of VAT input that I could claim against a future VAT output. So as I start the new financial year, I carry over the 3,609 input VAT as an expenses that I need to claim from an output VAT. And I continue for March all the way down to May. And as the end of May, I'm sitting at 4,406 Rand of input VAT. In June, I render a service valued at 3,863 Rand, and that is inclusive of VAT. And the VAT amount is 503. And in that month, I only had an input VAT of 132 Rand. So if you took 500 minus 132, there was a difference of about 370 Rand or so that I would pay to SARS. However, I know that I have accumulated a number of input VAT. So what I can do is I can just balance it off. So my output VAT, which we know is 503, and my input VAT, I take 503 so that it gives a net result of 0. So for that month of June, or for the month of May and June, because I do it together, I'll be submitting to SARS these two figures here and resultantly saying there's nothing to contribute. While in the previous months I had submitted that there was 0 VAT input and VAT output. And then with the carryover, I wait for a bit of a bigger amount of VAT output that I can claim my outstanding inputs against. So once you're on your transaction page, on a monthly basis, maybe every week or every second week, you need to categorize your different expenses and income, and where there are uh, lines that are related to VAT, you need to identify it through this tick mark here. And if there was a VAT included, it would look like this. Say, for example, insurance that was paid. It's a total of 934 Rand that was debited from my bank account. And because I categorized it as VAT inclusive, it then separates the 15% VAT, which is 121 Rand, and the insurance is 812 Rand. So this is what will appear on my management reports or income and expense statements, and this will appear under my VAT control report that's going to be used for my VAT201. So that's how you can see that VAT was applied, and this is what you would normally include. VAT included 15%, and then you say assign selected, and then it will show that tick. So I've already done that. This is historical information. However, I'm just showing you for that period of 2019. That's how I categorized each of these items, and with the tick it shows that there was either a VAT input or there was that fees that came through where I've included VAT that was charged to the client, which is that 503 Rand, which now needs to be paid to SARS, but I'm going to show SARS that I've used that 503 in expenses that I've had to run the company. So when you're on the reports tab and you want to understand what your VAT 201 return looks for that month, go to the VAT 201 report, and we're going to schedule it for the 2019 March, and you can view it as PDF or Excel, that's fine, but let's view this, and it's only for 1 month. So in March, you can see here there was no service or goods that was sold. However, you can see in the input tax that non-capital goods, so I purchased certain things, services, internet, and the VAT that was acknowledged was 202 Rand and 4 cents. And that in essence is what SARS owes me, but I carry that over. So when you look at the Excel sheet, that's exactly what's there. No income, but I did have an expense, and I keep record of it, and then I carry it over into the new year from last year's. So I continue doing that each month. I acknowledge what is the VAT 201 showing from Instant Accounting, all the way now going into the month of June, where I start to get some income. So let's go and see in June what the VAT 201 report looks like. So it shows that I received an income of it's professional services. It's not capital goods. So I'm using line number 1, and the VAT amount, or the output VAT, is 503 Rand. So that's what I need to pay to SARS. And then for that particular month, there were services that I used, and the VAT input amount was 132. So this is what FNB Instant Accounting is just looking from your transactions that you've pulled through. So I take that information, 503132, and I place it over here. 503 as my output VAT and 132. And I can see that there is some carryover that I can use to compensate for the shortfall in the VAT input, and then I can present this on the SARS e-filing that it was 503 for output and input, but I've carried over the input so that I reflect a zero amount to pay to SARS. Just do an example where maybe in August I receive 51,750 Rand, and that gives me an output VAT of 6,750. So that's quite healthy because I've got 4,382 Rand versus VAT input that I need to now deduct from this output VAT. And for that month of August, I had an input VAT of 500 Rand, for example. So now the difference of the output VAT and the input VAT is just the difference of 6,750 minus 500 gives me 6,250 Rand. And that's what I need to pay to SARS. But because I have a carryover of 4,000, I can add that to what I need to owe, and this is now the figure that I need to pay to SARS, 1,867. So with this analysis for the end of August, because I'm only now doing it for July and August, that's the focus now, because I've already cleared my VAT output already as part of the June submission. So for July and August, I can now communicate to SARS that this was my total income, which is inclusive of VAT, and the output VAT is 6,750. And what am I acknowledging to SARS as my input VAT? That is the 500 for that particular month, plus the carryover of 4,382.81. Just do it like that. So it's a total of 4,882 Rand, and then the difference is 6,750 minus that amount is equal to 1,867 Rand. So that's what I'm going to pay. And the SARS VAT201 will calculate it already. And this is like a cross check that you're doing on Excel to what you should be seeing the calculation on the VAT201 report. And then as of August, then I'm cleared. My VAT inputs and outputs have written each other off. And then I start the process again for September. And then I go into October, and then I assess if I do have output VAT, then I need to deduct my input VATs, and the balance is what I pay. And if I don't have any income, then I still collect my input VAT information, my expenses, and then allow it to carry over to the following month until I have an income. you would create one after the second month of sales, and this is what the VAT201 looks like, the vendor return form. And as you drop down on all of these sections here, you need to fill in information, and it all depends on the industry that you're involved in. And there's the difference of the output tax and the input tax. And input tax is what you have sold from your company, either your services or your goods, and the output is what you have purchased for you to provide those services. So, and that's the main principle. What is the difference between your input and your output tax? And that difference is what you need to pay to SARS. So the basic information needs to be filled in, contact information, and this is what's important. This is your output, supply of goods or services by you, and then you have then the input tax, which is capital goods or services supplied to you. Okay, and there's also a portion of imports, so that's a much more detailed level of information that's required there, which is not part of this training material, but you can speak to your accountant to gather more information there. So when I go to the VAT 201 for that period of June or May to June, I show that income that I received, 3,863, that's inclusive of VAT. And now we take out the VAT figure, which is 503, and then I've placed my input tax, which is 503, exactly the same. And it's because I've carried over some VAT input into there, so it cancels out. So the net effect then is 0. And I don't need to pay anything, and I can continue now for the following month to measure VAT inputs and VAT outputs until I finally get a larger VAT output, so that I can cover all of the outstanding VAT inputs that have not been claimed. If there's a payment that you need to make, then you would process the payment on the e-filing system, which is very easy, and you can see that the document was saved, and later on the status will be submitted, and you've declared a certain amount, and you can even see the statement of account showing you what you've put into the system and how it then deducts this is the amount that you need to pay. And then also you can dispute certain amounts that are there. You can have many, a number of versions if you need to make some corrections, but try and do it within the timeline that's given. Otherwise you incur penalties for late payment, and you are open in case there's certain information that's missing. You need to let them know that you are running late. Rather be upfront and have that information being sent to them, so that during the audit period, when you are challenging them on a penalty, you have that record of the communication that you sent to them, alerting SARS that you have some challenges or there's something that you need to resolve. So there's the request for extension. And then if everything makes sense, then you can go ahead and make payment. And there is like a reference number that's so unique for that particular payment linked to those 2 particular months. So you need to make sure that if you make an EFT payment, you are making it to the correct month. But if you make your payments via the system, it puts it in the right month that you had processed your VAT 201. And making a payment is very easy. You can see there, you just click on the button of make payment. You go into another screen, and this payment, it's like a push deduction that goes to your bank account that you've already inputted into the SARS e-filing. And when you open up your bank account, either through the app or online, you will see that there's a section of payments called e-filing, and you'll see that request coming from SARS that you would like this payment to be made, and then you accept it on your banking app, and that payment is made, and then you just make sure you download a copy of that proof of payment for your records. That's as simple as that, of making payments. And then there's just other ways in which you can create corrections and add any supporting documents. So you can request for a statement of account for VAT, and this is what it looks like. It's got your address over here and your VAT number, and it shows you for each submission the VAT output and VAT inputs. In this particular example here, you can see where penalties were applied, and it is quite substantial, the penalties, and it is wise for you to pay on time. Then, as tips, what is very important is when you receive income with VAT, try your best to keep the VAT apportion in a separate account. With FNB, you can get a money on call account, which is like an account that generates interest. And you can transfer the money. It doesn't cost you anything to transfer money from your main account to the money on call account, and keep it there for a month or two, because you have to pay every second month. So while it's that VAT portion is sitting in your money on call, it actually generates interest. And that is something that happens when you don't manage your cash flow properly. You start eating or tapping into that VAT, which actually doesn't belong to you. You just have the responsibility of passing it over to SARS once you have reviewed all your expenses and the VAT on that expense, and then give them the difference. So a lot of small businesses, they tend to use that money from the income, the VAT, and when it's time for them to pay, they don't have sufficient funds, and which results in late payments. So keep the discipline, and when you have that Excel sheet that you've created, you can analyze and manage your VAT cash flow and ensure that you are accurate before you put that information into your VAT 201 report on SARS. It is, it's professional to not have many corrections, and by having that Excel sheet, you can track if you made a mistake over the past couple of months, how you can rectify it. So that is one of the values that I have learned, is manage this information on Excel. Use the VAT reports from FNB Instant Accounting to do some cross checks so that you are 100% confident when you input your information on SARS. Thank you for staying till the end. I trust you learned a bit more on the VAT submission process and how to use FNB Instant Accounting to achieve this. The biggest takeaway is on the Excel document, where you update your VAT input and VAT output information so that you can analyze the situation and make a decision on how to submit your VAT returns, especially when you don't receive income in some of the months. And if you have any challenges with the VAT 201 reports, kindly contact Instant Accounting at fnb.co.za. And if you like these kinds of videos, kindly click on subscribe, and we'll continue to make running a business on the finance side a bit more simpler for entrepreneurs. Thank you.